anarchy in the streets right now.
Has been injured. There's rioting. You've started throwing rocks at police.
There's an unjust law is no law at all.
Historic St. John's Church set under fire.
God.
Is this a war going on here?
We're really talking about our future. What type of country do we want to be?
Hello, and welcome to Holding the Line, America's fight for religious freedom. We have done a number of interviews with interesting people exploring this topic. And our journey took us to Stephen Rose of Bailey's Pizza in Searcy, Arkansas. And Searcy is northeast of Little Rock, a decent-sized college town, housing two colleges, Harding University and Arkansas State University in Searcy. And what do college students like? Pizza. You know, Stephen's a Christian, and he's never afraid to wear his faith openly. Here's how he described his community.
Searcy's an unusual kind of spot because you have the advanced thinkers and the kind of the people that you wouldn't have in this demographic, this neighborhood, if it wasn't for Harding University. And you have that in other college towns. I've been to several of them, but in Harding you also have, it is a Church of Christ centered school, and so you have, I think there are 5 congregations here with of a town of like 12. I think there is 19,000 people in Searcy, and we have 5 churches of Christ that have a higher membership of 1,200. And there is a strong religious base here, where the peer pressure in Walmart is to not use foul language. You know what I mean? Is to be have good decorum, you know what I mean, and no matter where you are, you know, and so that's a good thing for your kids, and it's an interesting dynamic.
So now you have some kind of idea what Searcy is like. Small town, faith-based folks, you know, mixed with college-educated types. And I asked Stephen, how do you balance being a local store owner and meet the needs of all kinds of people?
In my business, in my life, I'm reliant on God, and I struggle because there's a lot of things that go out. There's a lot of people that will say that we're wearing our faith on our sleeve, and technically that's true. You know what I mean? I am wearing my faith on my sleeve, on my back, on my shoulders. You know what I mean? I want to be clothed in that or whatever. And so, my employees, you know, not all are Christians, not all, go to church, so you don't have to follow my beliefs. You have to respect them. You have to be respectful of them. You know what I mean? Just don't be belligerent, don't be rude is the thing. That he's not going to be a ploy, a tool to sell pizza. You know what I'm saying? It's just something that I sell pizza. If I was selling oranges on the corner in California, I would do it in the name of the Lord. But now responses, emotions, opinions are instant. You know what I mean? It's on Facebook. You know, they're in their car in the parking lot giving us reviews because it's always about their expectations of the way we treat them based on our spirituality. If they're the least bit, if they didn't get all the pizza that they wanted, or if they had to wait too long for their type of pizza, or if somebody was they left them on hold for too long, you call yourself a Christian business, you know what I mean? And so it's always that, and we're like, you know what, we do, and I'm so sorry, and that was wrong, and you're right, you know what I mean? We have opportunity all the time to, in love, stand up, you know, for God. And so those complaints are a sweet way to me to be able to represent God, to stand up for Him.
You know, here's a local restaurant owner, and he's trying to find a way to bring people in his business. He has employees who he's responsible for, his own family. Stephen has to pay the bills. So he came up with an idea, a way to offer a discount and draw people in on Sundays.
It was a God thing because it's hilarious because I put on a 10% discount if you bring in your church bulletin. I said bring in a church bulletin just because I didn't want to say your. I didn't want to, on my reader board, I wanted the letter A instead of having to put on 4 letters on my board. That was the only reason. And it was that's very important. That little distinction is very important for my argument as we move forward. So I put, bring in a church bulletin and you get a 10% discount. And it was, my brother-in-law had a little restaurant in Hot Springs back in the 80s and 90s called Cooking with Jazz, and he did that. Hey, bring in your church bulletin, and it was just, we wanted to try to build business. It wasn't a grand statement. It was trying to build business, And so we had, so it was fine. It was no big deal. It was all right. It wasn't even that big of a deal, but we kept that on there. My business is my life, and my life is Christ, and it's all kind of intertwined, so it's the same. I get this letter in the mail called from the Freedom from Religion Foundation. And to me, that name, somebody in the name of religion must have really hurt that lady. Somebody in the name of religion, because my religion is freedom. So if you need freedom from religion, I mean, man, that's sad. That hurts my feelings for them. And I know that there's something dark in your life. Somebody hurt you in the name of religion, and I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Anyway, I got a letter, and it said that I was not. We feel like that you're in danger of, or you need to think that it could be perceived as, it was, you are violating that law and we are going to get you, and I was like, and it was, I totally gave it no respect. There was no fear. In my demographic, it didn't dawn on me to know it was a big deal.
The Freedom from Religion Foundation, all the way in Madison, Wisconsin, sent an official sounding letter to Stephen saying he had violated the Constitution. Can you imagine that? How did that happen? How did they find out about Bailey's Pizza in Searcy, Arkansas?
There is a local constituent of that organization here in town, and they had taken a picture of that and sent it in because they sent me a photocopy of my reader board. And before the police station has crosses outside of their police department, and he tried to say, separation of church, state, you can't have that there, and he's like, I'm leaving it there. The chief of police is like, y'all can vote me out next time, but till I'm just leaving it. And that was it. That was the end of it, And so I don't know if it was as much. This guy must be a donor, sends them money or whatever, so they felt obligated to respond when he sends something, or because when they sent that letter, it was absolute. I was like, man. And I said, now this is twice that they've come after little old Searcy down in Arkansas. You know what I mean? In a span of just a couple of years. Over a 10% bulletin, you know what I mean? So I gave it to the newspaper. I thought it'd be interesting, a story. Well, they ran that story, and then the local news got a hold of it, and then it went national. Well, and we were getting letters and calls and money, and we were on national news, and we were on Fox morning news show, and all this stuff. And you know what I mean? And I got caught up in it. But boy, I tell you what, we were. The reason why I said we were busy before is not to brag. It was because we were packed. It was too much. We had people coming from Branson, Missouri, 3.5 hours away to eat lunch, so that their company truck could be seen outside of Bailey's Pizza, which I love. That's great. But it was too much. My employees were.
Thankfully, God blessed Bailey's Pizza with fame and plenty of business. I wondered what happened when all the fervor had died down.
And it died down a little bit after. I spoke over at Harding, and different people had done stuff, but it kind of settled down. But we went, and the local radio station called the late FFRF and tried to do part of the morning show. Was the only contact, never a second letter, never anything. The only contact that we got from, or the only interaction that we had from them that they responded, other than that letter, was when he called and they went through, and she was talking about civil rights, and you have to let some people, or if you're making people not go to that don't go to church, that you're discriminating against them. And he said, well, it said bring a church bulletin. So he said the church bulletin, like grace, is free to all. He said, so you can go buy, you don't have to go to church there, go buy and grab a church bulletin. Print it offline. You can get one online. In my church, you can have it online. Print it offline. It says bring in a church bulletin. And so it was so beautiful. And they were like, there was nothing to be said about that. It was all hating on expressing religion. No one was discriminated against. I had a lesbian atheist in the Air Force deployed over somewhere in the South Pacific who said, I completely disagree with you, but I am in the service of my country defending your right to say what you have to say. You go for it. And then I got one card that was my biggest contribution and didn't have a return address, didn't have nothing. It had Matthew 10:32 in the memo of a check. And whosoever therefore shall confess me before men, him will I confess also before my Father which is in heaven. And man, we all cried, and we were, it's wonderful, you know what I mean? So came to our t-shirts, came to our tables, came to our menus, and so that's how Matthew 10:32 was specifically, it was given to us. You know what I mean? By somebody who wanted nothing in return and had nothing to say about it, wrote a fat check and put that in the memo line. And that's beautiful. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
You think about the serious accusations that FFRF made against Bailey's Pizza. This case must have gone all the way to court, right? Probably spent a few nights in jail? No. It was all a scare tactic.
They cited the 1950-something Civil Rights it's an act, and I'm sorry I don't have the paper in front of me, but they cited it from 1950 Civil Rights, specifically about segregation and dividing religious people from non-religious, like they were dividing people based on their origin or whatever, and so it was insane that it was such a stretch to me, and the wording was so powerful that it was meant to scare me. It was meant to let me go and take it down, because they said I was, and it's a federal something, and that this is what they really tried to scare me. It just seems to be an imbalance, and I hate to use the word discrimination, but against religion. It seems to be discrimination against religion because it's clumped into this archaic, bigoted, hate-breeding thing that's not true. You know what I mean? And so, man, I guess pretty soon Christians are going to be fighting for their rights or whatever, because that seems to be, if I can't offer a discount for a bulletin, you know what I mean? What about ladies' night at bars? Is that discriminating against men? What about if you can't go skating, you can't go to a lock-in skating if you're over 18? Is that discriminating against grown people? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand, And it's only makes sense if you look at it through the lens of hating on religion.
Finally, I asked Stephen what he would say to someone who gets a similar letter from an atheist group. What should they do?
When you're a struggling business and the odds are against you anyway, and you're crippled by taxes, and then you're going to polarize yourself, there is a hard thing that you have to look at. I can say from my standpoint, I can say for me and for my relationship with God and who I am, that stand up. That if the argument is civil rights by catering to your clients, there's too much precedence that is never dealt with. It happens all the time in every promotional gimmick, every military discount, there's too much precedence for it to be, and it's not half as profoundly cut and dry as they would make you think it is. And then also, immediately reach out to these different Liberty Council and these different organizations, because that's what they're there for. That's why they're there. They want those cases. They want that notch in their belt. They want to fight for you. But ultimately and profoundly, stand up and keep pushing forward, because there are a lot of people out there like that lady who was a lesbian atheist over in the Solomon Islands or somewhere in the South Pacific, who took the time to not send us an email, but write us a letter saying that I profoundly disagree with you, but I'm out here serving to defend the right for you to say it. So you keep going. So they don't have to just be, people that are with your religious beliefs. They're with the belief that we have our rights, to worship and believe. And if I put my blood, sweat, and tears and everything into my business, and I feel like God is the one who's empowered me to do that, and I would feel like I would be turning my back on God if I didn't honor Him, then I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it, and I would hope that others do. And I think that if there was enough people that bucked, there would be those that have been lulled into a sense of catharsis, maybe, or whatever, the silent majority of Christian people that are shaking their head at watching what's on TV and not doing something in their community to do something different, not calling somebody, not talking to their state representative, not doing something to say, hey, I disagree with that. Silence to a legislator is approval. If you're not saying nothing against it, you agree. Well, and he knows that's not true, maybe, but it's legitimate. Hey, if you disagreed, you should have said something. We should say something. There was a lady that up in Indiana, I think, that had not only, she offered a discount if she saw people praying in her little place, she offered a discount. And not only did she stop that, but she felt compelled to apologize on her reader board. It would never dawn on me to apologize in my community to be spiritual. You know what I mean? And there is that special thing where the peer pressure is to be at least solid, wholesome, conservative decorum. And don't cuss and don't, whatever you're doing, that's the pressure. That's the overall dynamic of Searcy, where it wouldn't be somewhere else. It would never dawn on me to feel compelled to apologize for offering somebody a discount for praying at their little diner or whatever.
Sadly, Bailey's Pizza is now closed, probably a victim of COVID. But the legacy of Stephen's stance lives on. And I hope it inspires other restaurant owners to hold the line, to live out their faith, even in a private business. We appreciated Stephen and his family for the time they gave us, and some free pizza too. It was pretty good. The fight continues, and you need to be informed. So follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and like this video, and you'll see more content coming your way. You can also read my book, Holding the Line, America's Fight for Religious Freedom. It's available on Amazon. Thanks for joining me, and keep holding the line.